Kum lernen Ablat Gemara. Erev Shabbos Mevorchim. Today's daf is daf Beis Amud Aleph, and the Mishnah begins with an Aleph on the Beis on the bottom of the page. So we're talking about when a person makes a neder, and it's one thing about intent. You can always ask him what his intent is, but it's also the words are very important. What do the words actually mean? Because we need that leib and piv should be shoving. What you say and what you think should be the same. So we went through a number of cases when you say cooked, what do you mean by cooked, what do you mean by marinated, and so on. Now says the Gemara Mishnah, Hanoid min hacholov, if somebody makes a neder, I will not drink any milk, mutter b'koim. But whey is permitted because whey is like the watery part. You know, you separate the milk and the whey is it's still transparent. It's not milk. So therefore it's permitted. Rabbi Yosi says it's forbidden because he holds either to that pieces of milk there and therefore so therefore it's like I said milk. It's still called milk. The way we understand right now, there's an argument going on. Min hakoim, if somebody says I will not take, I ban or forbid koim, it's koinim and me is mutter b'chol. Same logic. It's permitted with milk. Abba Shol says next case. So again, so we had a question: is what does cholov mean? How far reaching does cholov go? To include koim or does not include koim? Next thing, Abba Shol says, you say I will not eat cheese. Whether it's salted, whether it's non-salted, even though the majority of cheeses, according to the way Hashem explained, the majority of cheeses are salted, but nevertheless, because you didn't specify, it includes all cheeses because they're all referred to as cheese. Next case, or others trying to say, you would have said, remember we had before where you say hey, you add the prefix hey, as if the. And so therefore, when you say, according to the social, you say hagivina, you think dachi, the most favorite cheese, which is salted cheese. Nevertheless, it includes all kinds of cheeses. Next case, if somebody makes a neder koinim on meat, is mutter, meat is meat. So therefore, mutter bereitiv, you're permitted to eat the gravy and kippa. Kippa are, according to Moshe Shem, are pieces of meat stuck on the bottom of the pot, which is not when you give meat, serve meat, you don't serve that part of the meat. So it's mixed in the gravy and you have little pieces of meat. That's called kippa. So you're allowed to do that because when you said flesh, you meant flesh. You didn't mean kippa at all. And Rabbi Yehuda says no, that since this is pieces of meat, and even the gravy comes from the meat, it's included. When you say basar, it includes the gravy as well. You cannot have the gravy part as well. Rashi actually learns that kippah does not mean pieces of meat, it means very thick gravy. The thicker part of the gravy, which comes out, the fatty part of the meat. And Amar Rabbi Yehuda said to support me, or according to other versions, Rabbi Yosi who says Rabbi Yehuda says to support Rabbi Yosi. My said there's this incident once, and this something similar happened. The Aser Aleinu or Alai, Rab Tarfon said to me that you're not allowed to have bayim shenas bashlima. You cannot eat eggs that were cooked with meat. So we see from here that even though I asked only meat, yet because it was cooked with the meat, it was us. So surely the gravy that comes out of the meat, surely that should be us. Amr said one second, Rab Tarfon is right what he said, but you're mixing things up. Masai depends what the neder was. In that story over there, Masai, when do we say that it's not only answering the meat, but it also asks everything else that comes from the meat, is exuded from the meat, and the eggs that are that next to the meat could have a flavor of the meat. Bisman she'amad is only when you use the words. If you said this meat is forbidden to me, then every part of that meat is forbidden, and the gravy that comes out of it is from this piece of meat. You make this into a piece of treif. You made a chaticha d'yisur. So everything that emanates from that meat is forbidden. If someone makes a neder from an object, and therefore you said that this object now is treif, then it's added ba'acher, and then this object got mixed up with others. It's like treif. So if there is a flavor, in other words, if there's less than 60 times as much as the non-neder meat as the neder meat, then also. But if there's more than shish is mutter. But we're not talking about. But if you say that that you say I'm not going to eat flesh, you didn't say basar zeh. I mean, flesh is only meat. Does not include the gravy. Does not include the other parts or eggs are next to it. Now, if you see this very long round here. Traces asked the question, but he somehow or another managed to deal with it in 10 lines. And look how narrow the lines are. Ran decided to go to town. And we all learned this in Yeridea when we did Smicha. The Taisha asked a very simple question. Taisha said the Mishnah clearly says here that if you said basar zeh, then any flavor that's exuded from this meat and passes around, it becomes batal b'shishim. And if it's less, if there's 100 times, then it's permitted. As traces, we have a rule. Not every time do we say batal b'shishim. There are exceptions. A davar ma'imid, something which is a catalyst, so it never becomes batal. One of the things that we have exception is davar sheyesh l'matir. We had the beginning of Marabeya. That's something that's forbidden today and permitted tomorrow. We do not rely on the laws of bittul. So since there's a mitzvah, if you make a neder, we'll learn the Gemara later. There's a mitzvah actually to repeal, to rescind that neder. So it's a davar sheyesh l'matir. Every neder you make, you just go to 3 people and you matzah neder and you annul your neder. And the rule by davar sheyesh l'matir is that if one egg got mixed up with 1,000 eggs on Yom Tov, everything is awesome. So why should we batal b'shishim? That's the question they all ask. All the Rishonim ask. But Teitz's answers, very simple. Teitz's answers that davar sheyesh l'matir is only also if it's min b'minoi, if they're the same sort. But if it's min b'she'ena minoi, if it's something that got mixed up with something else, is like batal. Now, what exactly does that mean? We have everyone agrees that a min b'she'ena minoi b'haTorah is batal b'rayv. 1 and 2. If you have a majority of kosher versus non-kosher, we follow the majority. But then the Rabbanon, we say that no, the flavor is still there. So you need shishim. We decided, we took an arbitrary number, and we decided we'll use that rule universally, that shishim makes it batal. When does that work? By min b'she'ena minoi, because it dilutes it, and eventually the isa disappears. Obviously, if the isa is still extant, if you can see the isa floating there, there's no batal at all. Bittul is only the isa is not there; it's only a question of flavors, and we say that's it. Shishim is batal. But if it's what about min bin minoi? There we have an argument in Shas between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, and in fact, in the Rishonim we have a machlekes of the halachas like Rabbi Yehuda, bein tam paschal Rabbi Yehuda, Rashi and other Rishonim machlekes. And what happens is it says by Yom Kippur v'lokach b'dam hapar v'dam hasoyer, that the kohen gadol should take from the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat. And there's so much more blood coming from the bull than from the par than from the soyer, and yet we still say that there's dama soyer here. So we learn from this as that min b'minoi, that if it's 2 the same kinds, they don't annul each other. On the contrary, they fortify each other, and therefore it doesn't become batal. It gets stronger. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. And the Chachamim says no difference. Min b'minoi, min b'eini minoi is batal b'shishim. In all cases, batal b'shishim. Says Tosfos, when do we say that davar sheyesh lo matirin is not batal? Only if it's min b'minoi. But if it's min b'she'ena minoi, it is batal. It doesn't give any logic to it. Now, what is the logic of davar sheyesh lo matirin? We had a Rashi in the beginning of Marabeya. And Rashi says, why apply a rule of bittul, which sort of is like a last resort, if you can just wait till tomorrow, it'll be totally mutter. And therefore, that's why we say lo batal. Now, if you follow that line of reasoning exclusively, then why should there be a difference if it's min and min b'she'ena minoi? Wait till tomorrow, regardless. So this long round comes up with the brilliant Lamdash Pshat, and he says as follows: and what did the Chachamim do with that pasuk? I mean, Rabbi Yehuda brings a very strong proof. So what does he do with that pasuk? So it says around the Rabbanon agree that min b'minoi is not batal. They argue on what the definition of min b'minoi is. They say you look only at the physical item, and you say, well, if it's 2 the same sort, it's called min b'minoi. If it's not the same sort, then it's called min b'eina minoi. That's what you say. The Chachamim say, don't just look at the physical item. Look at the legal qualities as well. This is treif, and this is mutter. That's min b'eina minoi. But if they're both almost, one is 100% mutter, and one will be mutter tomorrow, then it's min b'minoi legally as well, because they're almost the same. This is mutter today. It's only a question of time. So it's not just the physical being; it's also the legal being. So Chachamim say, when do we believe the lokah madama par madama soy? They're both there to do the same mitzvah, to sprinkle on the parechas. So therefore, they're both mutter right now, because you have to do it right now. So that's why it's min b'minoi. It's not batal, is because it's real min b'minoi. They're both blood, but more than that is legally they're the same. But will you have a normal situation? Like davar sheyesh lo matirin, a normal situation of treif and kosher, even if it's min b'minoi, kosher steak and a treif steak, even if it's min b'minoi, it's not really min b'minoi because this is kosher and this is treif. But double sheyesh le'matidin, that today's us and tomorrow's mutter, not only are they the same item, but also legally they're practically the same. Then we will concede that min b'minoi is not both. And that's the logic behind it. This round's logic is used to explain other halachas that we have, which we have no explanation. We had the Gemara Psachim at the end, that mitzvahs ain't betvatin zezeh. We had that you can have a koirach, a sandwich. You have a sandwich of koirach, matzah and mor, Pesach. Why aren't they canceling each other out? Why aren't they canceling each other out? Especially one is greater than the other one. I'll tell you for sure. It's bottle b'rayim. So if you have more of this and less of that, then you should measure and make sure everything's the same. Why in mitzvah vatva zuzu? So using this logic, because over here, then they are, and they go a step further. Because the man himself doesn't even say so much. Okay, they go a step further and say, because it's the same mitzvah, and it's not today. If today would be awesome, let's say, oh, today's a mitzvah for this, tomorrow's a mitzvah for that, then we look also at the physical sense. Well, physically, this is matzah, this is mor. So what if they both have the same mitzvah, but it's still min bein and minay? Not from the legal perspective, but from the physical perspective. But because they are both for today, it's a step more than double shishim matir. Never did it. This is mutter today and this is mutter tomorrow. Close enough. So therefore, we need to make it, in order to be considered min mina, we need two variables there. We need the legal status and we need the physical status. But when it comes to mitzvahs, because they're both right now, it's mandatory right now to eat matzah and to eat mor. So then it's so strong that we don't even care if the physical situation is that they're both different from each other. We're going to say that it's called min min, and that's why they're not about each other, using the logic of the Ram. They also use it for kachim. Isurin are not about each other. Same idea. If it's happening right now, then it's a step stronger, and we don't care if it's two separate minutes. And the Ran uses that logic to explain about on Yom Tov, when you have a tchum, if you want to carry, there's water and you have a dough. In the dough, you have water and salt. The salt pulls you one way and the water pulls you another way. And everybody asks, why aren't they buckled to the dough? Wherever the dough is, who cares how much you have a pinch of salt in there? You have what's going on in there. And how come that works? And so someone will say, because the salt and the water, it joins the dough, and that's the only way to make bread with salt, it becomes like min b'minay. And therefore it's not bottle, and each one pulls in different directions, and you're only allowed to walk where they both overlap. But the Ran says no. The Ran says not because it's like min b'minay, but because you're going to be using them both together. It's not like one is mutter today, one is not. Because they're both davish and matinim. Why there's a part where they overlap, so you can carry that. So therefore, with davish and matinim, even though this is salt and this is water and this is dough, there's three different things. But because you can use them both right now, we ignore the fact that in Gashmias, or the physical state, they're different from each other. That's called minimum. So we use this round to explain all these other Gemaras. Bring back to their memories from your day. Base. Anyway, okay, let's continue. Next case. Boss says, sorry. If somebody made a neder that won't enjoy wine, he says wine. So wine is forbidden, but let's say you have wine, the flavor of wine in some kind of a food, it's called for in the recipe, it doesn't matter, that's permitted. But what happens if he says, if he says that this wine is awesome, he adds shani time, but we already had a few times before shani time is not important, but we'll see them more later. The nafal latafshel, since he said yayin zeh, this wine, because he said yayin zeh, anything that comes from this wine, like we had before by the meat, you made this wine treif, so anything that comes from the wine is us. Says I'll ask a question. We have a machlekes here between the Chachamim and Rabbi Yosi, where the Chachamim say milk does not include whey, and Rabbi Yosi says that milk is whey and whey is milk. In other words, we expand. We're not so limited, and we take it exactly verbatim what you said. We sort of, if it's close enough, near enough is close enough, and if it's part of it, we learned on somewhere else. A machlekes with exactly the opposite. But I mean, as a question we learned in Adoshim, if somebody says I will not eat lentils, nor can you eat, let's say, bread that's mixed in with flour of lentils, and that's how some learn. Or the Ran actually learns, is talking about that you need oil into it. You mix oil into these lentils, and you fry it together. So what is it? It's lentils. It's 100% lentils. It's not like whey compared to milk, which is not even the same product in a way. Here it's exactly this is the same lentils before, but just you added another ingredient. You put honey in there and then you grill it together. So the Rashi says you turn it into flour, but it's still made out of these lentils. Rabbi says mutter because you said lentils and ashishim not included. Doesn't make sense. Madach in the case of milk and whey was like totally different. And yet you say that is forbidden. The substance is so different. Yet you say it's forbidden. It's included. And yet when it comes to lentils, the lentil mom is still there. Just you added honey to it, or you just turned it flour, but it's still the same lentils. And Yesi says mutter. Like Kasha, Markiase. They're not arguing at all. Each person, we had it a few times already, will talk the way people speak in their region. Remember, it goes after by Nedarim, Halech, Achaloshim, and go after the way people talk. But I said that Rabban called the Chal, where Rabban milk is milk, and whey is whey. But Rabbi Yasi, they used to refer to whey also as the way of milk. So they didn't really call it, they didn't really call whey milk, but they used to associate it with milk, the way of milk. So therefore, when you say milk, it includes whey, say whey, it includes milk as well. This is the way our version of the Gemara is. So it comes out, there's no machlekes whatsoever. The Ran has another version where they're still arguing in something. Time you learned. If you make a neder from milk, you're allowed to have the whey. From whey, from milk, you're allowed to have cheese. If you say cheese, you're allowed to have milk. If you say gravy, you're allowed kippah. So therefore, it sounds more like, but love dafka. So we had it on like kippah means pieces. So then it's taka different. Even those who learn that Rashi kippah means just thick gravy, maybe still people didn't refer to thick gravy as reitiv. Reitiv is flows, just like watering. And I keep them with reitiv. Again, if you say something very distinct, that's the limit to that. If you say that this meat is also, so I'm turning this meat into a piece of treif, is also boy ubereit for the keeper. Everything that emanates from this meat is forbidden. If someone makes a neder from wine, you said wine. So anything that's, but if it's eating another food item that has a flavor of wine, no problem. If he says, I banned this wine that I will not taste, the nafel tafshel, and it fell into a tafshel. If there's a taste of wine there, then there is us again because it yain is there. So therefore, it's us in all these cases. We're concluding, there's no argument. In the same thing, the way we learn, Moshe Shein learned, there's no argument at all. Everything depends on where you are, and so indeed, you wonder why the Mishnah even brings up Yeshi's opinion. The rule is whatever people say. So, and you'll give us a clap. When you look in your city, when people say this, what do they mean when they say this? Do they mean that, or they mean just this? And that's it. Why we have to go through every single Mishnah and each one's talking about their readers? I don't know. I know even Anavim. So it makes a net from grapes. Okay, yeah, it's a different form.
It seems to have a predilection for what's being very meduic on the type of wording. We have in the other very often we seem to focus, somewhere or other else they call it like this.
So that's why the Tana of the Mishnah uses that expression, because he's maybe he comes from there, or maybe he learned from somebody came from there. There is a machlekes of shaynim that all this is talking about if you speak in your own vernacular. If you're speaking in Lashon Kodesh, then maybe we don't care how people say. We look at the psukim of the Torah and Tanakh, the way the Torah and Tanakh use the psukim and Tanakh. Or do we say even in Lashon Kodesh? It depends how people speak. There's machlekes of shaynim on that. Mishnah Hanoidim and Anavim. So making that from grapes. Mutter beyayin. You're allowed to drink wine. Again, it's not a grape. Nobody calls wine, grapes. Menazeisim olives, mutter b'shemen. You're allowed to have the oil. Omar, if he says koinim zeisim v'anovim elu, he said these grapes or olives are forbidden. She'eni toim, I will not taste it. So you use two different expressions. At first he said elu. He didn't say like we had before zeh. He said elu these. And before when he said zeh, we said that zeh means no matter what, what happens to them, anything that emanates from them is awesome. He said elu these. But he also said she'eni toim, I will not even taste it. Also, when you're forbidden with them, and anything similar to it, anything that emanates from it, like the oil and the wine and all that is forbidden. So that's the most question going to be now. Is the fact that you said elu, or is it the fact that you said she'einu toyim? I don't even want to taste it, and therefore I can't have the wine. I can't have the oil. Which one is it? Elu dafka. Is it the elu that does it, or she'einu toyim dafka, or is it she'einu toyim? So you might ask a question. I understand your question. See, the Mishnah says both. Why is the Mishnah bring up also she'einu toyim? If the word is that if I said elu, then the wine and the oil is forbidden, then why is the Mishnah also add she'einu toyim? That's not a kasha. How Kamashal come to teach you the afagav the amar she'einu toyim, even though you added einu toyim. In other words, the Gemara could have said this on both ways. In other words, the Gemara basically is saying that the Mishnah is saying both phrases, but we only need one of them. The question is which one. So why is the Mishnah bring the second one? To tell you that the second one on its own is nothing. It's only if you said the correct phrase that the oil and the wine is us. Because we don't know which is the correct phrase. So which one is it? Tashma coming here. It says we had before koinim pedis for elu. Alai, I forbid these fruits on me. He says elu. Koinim is like koinim pedis elu. Alai koinim hey lepi. They're also to my mouth. What did we learn before? Also is forbidden. Not only these items, but bichulapay. You swap it for something else. It is also ubigidulein. And you swap, and if you put in the ground seeds and things grow from it, shoots and everything else, they are all awesome. Now, why doesn't it say habiki yaitzibehen? Why doesn't it say what about something that exudes from it? We talk about a swap and we talk about gedulain. What about something that yaitzibehen? It sounds mutter. Sounds like it's mutter. Otherwise, it would include other words. It should say yaitzibehen bechulafein. The gedulain is awesome. The fact that you omitted the yaitzim is because it's a totally different substance. It's a totally different substance. It's no longer even looks like it, and it just happened to naturally come out from it. If you make a swap, even though it's a different substance, you're deliberately saying this is a substitute for that. Ugidulayin is mamish, is going to look the same. But when it comes to yaitzim wine and oil, it takes on a whole different form. So perhaps because it takes on a whole different form, it should have been noted. And the fact that it's omitted means that it's taken not included. Anyone know? Who had din that affiliation also? No, maybe that even Yitzben is also. In fact, that's obvious. The Brisa thinks that Yitzben, this is also, you said that this is also a P, and this came from that. Of course it's also. The Chiddush is that when you're machlef it for something else, it's a totally different product. Does the Isa also get swapped with it? Or Gedulei, and it's a whole new product. It didn't exist before. Once I know that Chilufein and Gedulei is also, surely Yaitse, man, something that comes out of it is also. You don't have to tell me that. And in fact, the purpose, the point of the Bryce, the objective of the Bryce is to tell you that even though Chilufein has nothing in common with the original item, but because you use that as a swap and you substitute that for the original, the Isser extends to that as well. But obviously, Yitzhak is also no proof one way or another from it. So we don't have an answer. It says, it says, I will not eat, I will not taste. It didn't say anything about Ein. It just said stam. And so on. Mutter is permitted b'chilufein or b'gedolein. Then the chilufim and the gedolim are mutter, because you said I won't eat this, I won't taste this. But if you swap for something else or something that grows out of it, it's permitted. Ha hayatzim, but sounds like if it came out from it, it was exuded from the original item, then usher. Otherwise, it would have brought it, because that's the end of this first price that we said. Otherwise, it would have said at least here it's usher. And here you can't say it in the middle because it's not the same as the other ones. So you're right. You should have said that, but the reason why I didn't say that is I did the lenose, but because we're not talking about focusing on the chiluf midulain, and we're bringing a contrast. Where if you said elu, then it includes the chilupain and the gidulain. If I did not say elu, just said I will not eat this substance, then if I swap it, it's mutter. So we're focusing on those two. So don't bring in a new category that we didn't discuss before, which is yaitse mehen. And you're right, maybe yaitse mehen is awesome. So again, we have no proof either way what the status of Yaitse Mehen is. If he did not say Elu, he just said Oichel Toyum, what would it then be? Because we're trying to work out, is it the Elu that makes what the liquid that emanates from the Asad, or is it the She'eni Toyum? I won't taste it, and I'm tasting it when I have it. We can learn either way. No proof one way or another. Oh, but Yehuda said, Yehuda said, "Nice." The story happened. But also, the Tafra came an acid, Bayim Sheniz Bashlim. The Tafra came along and acid eggs that were cooked with the meat. When you said right, the meat is forbidden. Came along a time we had the machlekes there, where it includes the gravy, where it includes the kafir, and the Yehuda said it's acid. All you would and the Tafra said a Ma'aser, but that if there were eggs cooked with it, it's acid for nice and time. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara answered back, the story of Tafra is correct, but you missed out a major point. Amaloi, they said to him, "Hey, Masai, when is it said, Bisman Shava Basa Zelai? When is it said, when he said Basa Zelai, so then anything that comes from that meat is us? If you made a neder of something and then juice flows of the Yeshua time and gives a taste of us. So therefore, it's just clear from here. It's clear that when it says zeh, the everything that emanates from it is usher as well. So what's your shaila? Is anybody right? There's no question. If you said elu, like you said, but what's called zeh elu? There's no difference. If you said elu, that these pieces are forbidden, then everything about it is forbidden, like treif. My question is it the daf? What happened? You only said the Mishnah happens to include two different things. You said elu and you said ein time. What would be the difference if you said only elu? There's no question. We already had before. Everything that comes out of it emanates from his awesome. But what about if you said only ein time? I won't taste it. What happens then if you have a taste eating something else that has the flavor of it, but not the item itself? What would your din be then? We haven't resolved it. Tashma coming here. So you might be looked at before yesterday. Doggy, remember dog is a single, so that means a large fish. Doggy is pearl, you normally buy it in quantities, which means small fish, like sardines or the answers smaller than the size of a liter. Is she'eni toyim, I will not taste it. Also behen, ben doilim, mektani, not large fish, small fish, ben chayim, ben risholim, raw or cooked, whatever state. Umuter betris trufa uvetzir. You're allowed to eat, however, chopped up fish that's generally sold chopped up, because you said whole fish. Dogim are whole fish, so that you're allowed to. Uvetzir, and the brine that comes from the fish as well. It comes from the fish, is mutter. So clearly, if we see from here that you said clearly, I won't taste it, and yet something which emanates from the fish, but it's not fish. It's the liquid that emanates from the fish. It's permitted. What's your shayla? Says Rabbi, that's not Amar Rabbi. Here it's talking about that brine already left the fish before you made the neder. But once I made the neder and now it's exuding the fish, what happens then? That has not been resolved. I'm going to show you how to deal with that. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll continue tomorrow night. 10